Hi guys, I'm Dr. Salcedo, your conscious gynecologist. I'm so glad you're here. I'm a board certified OBGYN that works in Southern California. I focus on the root cause of female problems and I teach real solutions keeping your whole life in mind. Today I'm going to teach you how to use low carb, high fat nutrition to improve your female health problems. Now, you might be here because you have heavy periods. You might be here because you have endometriosis. You might be here because you have uterine fibroids. And maybe you're just looking for something a little bit different. I can teach you how to look at the root cause of how of these problems come to be, and let's look at some solutions that may be able to help fix them. By and large, the majority of these problems, fibroids, endometriosis, heavy periods, come from two sources. They come from a hormonal problem and a structural problem. The hormonal concern usually is high insulin levels, and the structural problem usually is high circulating levels of inflammation. Now, let's break it down. High insulin levels will eventually lead to blockage of ovulation. Now, insulin is a hormone that comes from your pancreas. It rises when we have carbohydrates, but it also rises when your body's under any kind of significant stress. It's a mechanism that is actually natural to us to keep us safe and to give us the energy and store energy when we are undergoing any kind of significant stressors in our life or we're preparing for that. It's a natural evolutionary adaptation. And insulin level up comes and goes, high and low, depending on what's going on in our life. But when there's too much insulin, your body created a system that will actually block ovulation from too high insulin levels because your body thinks it's under a stress. And if it thinks it's under a stressor, it's not a good time to have a baby. And so your body's going to protect you so that you don't have a baby during a time that's very, very stressful. So that's the first concept. The second concept is structural inflammation. Now, there's inflammatory molecules that are circulating through our body from various exposures. It could be from smoking, it could be from not enough sleep, it could be from eating a processed food diet, it could be from chronic exposure to stressors. Whatever it is, it actually leads to blood vessel inflammation and your body will try to repair it. But if it's receiving that exposure to blood vessel inflammation so often that it actually never repairs itself. That's why we see problems like uterine fibroids. That's why we see problems like endometriosis or heavy periods. And so sometimes it's a hormone problem, sometimes it's an inflammation problem, sometimes it's both. So how do we fix this and where does low carb diet come into play? What we really need to understand first is something called macronutrients. So there are three types of nutrients that our body uses in order to have normal processes and functions. These nutrients can actually serve as fuel for our human body. We have carbohydrates, we have fat, and we have protein. But the very interesting thing is that carbs aren't completely necessary in our body because actually our liver produces the carbohydrates that we need for normal functioning. And so, yes, we can include carbohydrates in our diet. And when we do so, our insulin level will go up. Your pancreas does the right thing, increases insulin to store carbohydrates in our fat and in our muscle. However, modern diets right now are way high in carbohydrates, way more than what our ancestors actually really needed. And that's where we cause that high insulin levels, high inflammation that lead to a lot of the female problems. So, how does low carb, high fat nutrition help? Well, low carb, high fat nutrition decreases sugar, which decreases insulin, which allows women to ovulate. Now, it also decreases sugar, decreases inflammation that allows for tissue repair. So, what is a low carb, high fat diet anyway? A well formulated carbohydrate restricted diet includes adequate energy from fat, from protein, minerals, and vitamins. Okay, so when we go back to those macros, okay, think foods that we can eat, macronutrients that give us energy and allow for normal processes. When we break it down, a well formulated low carbohydrate diet includes carbohydrates that are approximately 10 to 15% of our caloric intake, protein that's about 20 to 50%, and fat that's about 60 to 70% of the amount of calories we're taking in through the day. So when people talk about low carb, high fat diet, there's all kinds of different verbiage and numbers out there, and there's all different kinds. And my subsequent videos will teach you exactly what they are. However, in summary, low carb, high fat diet in general ranges between 30 to 50 grams of carbohydrates per meal. The rest of it is looked at as fat and protein. A ketogenic diet is about less than 30 grams of carbohydrates per day. And then you may heard of some people who take that even further and go carnivore. And carnivore diet is less than 20 grams per day. Now, I don't really recommend that when ladies become really motivated and want to start a therapeutic carbohydrate restriction or low carb diets, I don't really recommend that you start going straight into carnivore diet. Now, carnivore diet is a really excellent method and tool to keep your carbohydrates low. But when your body has been used to consuming 200 to 300 grams of carbohydrate energy, and then you switch to fat metabolism, it can be very, very strenuous and hard on your body and make people feel pretty uncomfortable. And so what I recommend is a very stepwise approach. And so if you're looking to introduce low carb, high fat diet to decrease your insulin, to decrease your inflammation, I recommend that you first start that first month with low carb, high fat nutrition in the range of about 30 to 50 grams of carbohydrates per meal, and try that for a month and see how you do. If you're starting to feel pretty good, less fatigue, less anxiety, less bloating, you're starting to maybe lose a few pounds, you'll feel good. And then what ends up happening is a lot of people will take it a step further because they're starting to feel so good. And some people start a ketogenic diet. And a ketogenic diet, again, is less than 30 grams of carbohydrates for the entire day. And if you're interested in doing that, I would really only recommend going keto, going that low of carbohydrates after you've been adapted from carbohydrate metabolism to fat metabolism, which is what a low carb, high fat diet will bring you to. After about 4 weeks of low carb, high fat diet, and if you're interested in going keto, sure, you can definitely go lower and go ketogenic diet. Then after about 4 weeks of ketogenic diet, if you're interested in taking it even further, you're starting to feel the effects, the positive effects, then you can go carnivore if you want to. But I don't recommend a overnight switch. Start by just doing something simple. If you're feeling motivated to go low carb, high fat, then maybe just stop eating bread. Maybe just stop eating fruit, and then you can gradually go in. But for some people, once they just go from 200 to 300 grams of carbs per day to 30 to 50, it can feel really difficult. It can feel really invalidating. It could feel like you're not getting it, and then a lot of people let it go. But what I would say is just take it stepwise, 4 weeks at a time. Now, there are certain people who should really need to work with their healthcare provider before they start any kind of diet like this, especially those people who are on medications for diabetes, medications for blood pressure, or who might be breastfeeding. This diet is so powerful and it repairs so well that a lot of times your medications and your blood pressure medicines, your diabetic medications need to be adjusted by an experienced healthcare professional. Please include them in your journey. Now, with breastfeeding, a lot of ladies will need a lot more extra carbohydrates during this time in their life because they're bringing all their carbohydrates to their baby, and it will bring them low. It can actually lead to a serious complication called ketoacidosis. That's a rare phenomenon, but it has been reported in the literature. We find that if we keep carbohydrates to at least 50 a day, that most women will end up going into that state. So I know this is a lot, but it is just a primer of how to bring women to a low carb, high fat approach to help improve female problems like heavy periods, uterine fibroids, even endometriosis. If you like this video, please subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave a comment below. Let me know how it goes. I want to see how you feel after 4 weeks of eating low carb. How are you doing? If you're interested in a consultation, check out consciousgynecology.com. and I'll be able to help you. My personal mobile phone number is there, and as well as my email address and a way to make an appointment. I would love to help you through your specifics of your journey. And you can find more resources about how to do low-carb, high-fat diet safely, looking at dietdoctor.com, looking at some of the resources that I have on my YouTube channel, and also looking at my website, consciousgynecology.com. Thank you so much for this time in your life. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you soon.